It's not uncommon at all for these young people who transition to feel worse once they transition, and indeed to feel suicidal.
I think it's heartbreaking that some of these young people didn't get the evaluation, the support, the kind of mental health services that they needed, and instead were really rushed to medical transition and surgery. And as you mentioned, mastectomy and testicle removal, like that's permanent. You really can't change that. And I think it was really brave for 60 Minutes to do that because they got a lot of pushback. And so I think there's a harm in doing just this one-sided perspective that everybody is helped and no one is harmed. Because I know people who have been helped by transition, and I know people who have been harmed by transition. And these are both very, it's important to understand the full range. And I believe that the doctors who are very gung-ho, to push for a mastectomy in 3 months or testicle removal in 3 months, they really believe that that is the answer, and that's what's going to help people. I have talked to doctors who are very pro-transition, and I've been in a situation where I was the one in the room saying, but wait a second, but what if it's something else? But wait a second, what if the parents are right and this is not in their child's best interest? And I was, I got the side eye, like this was not a welcome thing, but I think the reason they do it is that they are convinced that this is what people need and this is what's going to help them. And there's a real, maybe there seems to be a lot of effort in not hearing the stories that would challenge that some people are hurt.
So I listened to your interview on Savage Minds, which was terrific. And one of the girls that you discussed had said, she decided to transition and then detransition, and she realized that she was never transgender. She just had, I think she had seen her mother sexually assaulted or raped, and had convinced herself that if she were a man, she could either prevent it or it wouldn't happen to her. It was a great example to me of how trauma can get you sort of, it gives your brain a reset that it doesn't need. It pushes it in the wrong direction about what the solution is.
Right. So that was a clinical case that was written about in the literature. And I think it really goes right back to this model of there are many causes for this distress and there are many treatments. And so the psychologist that took care of this young child, she, I believe, had witnessed her mother being murdered. And she developed a sense that if she had been a boy, she could have protected her and could have prevented it. And so I think this is heartbreaking. And if you don't ask, if you just say, oh, you're right, you really are a boy, you're going to miss like a lot of diagnosis. You're going to have missed diagnosis. You're going to have delayed diagnosis, and you're going to give people the wrong treatment. And I think, that's where we need to get back to basics.
So two things on that. One, it reminds me of the discussion we kicked it off with about the 2-year-old. Who knows? Maybe there was trauma in the first 2 years that pushes a child, as young as that, to start thinking about this, even if it's not conscious. Maybe, as opposed to being a biological thing, that you're born with. Who knows? The point is, we don't know the answers to these things. But the other thing I was going to say is, oh gosh, I can't remember the second thread. Oh, I know. Yes, because you wrote about how most of these kids, not only did they not get alternatives when they went to seek medical care or counseling or whatever, but the vast majority of detransitioners you spoke with said they felt that they were underserved by the doctors they spoke with, that the downsides of this were not adequately discussed, and the positives of this were grossly overstated.
Right. And so one thing to remember is my study is a convenient sample. So it's not a representative of all people who detransition. There has not ever been a study that's nationally, a representative study. But in terms of talking about the people in this study, that more than half felt that the evaluation they got was not adequate before they transitioned. More than half of them felt that their clinician didn't really explore whether there could be something else like a mental health condition or trauma that was why they wanted to transition. And I asked people, and again, I get accused of being just one-sided. I gave options so that people could say, yes, it was accurate, or no, it wasn't, in terms of the counseling they got. So there were options of the counseling was accurate. My doctor was not positive enough about the benefits, or was too positive about the benefits, or not negative enough about the risks, or too negative about the risks. So people really did get the range of responses that they could pick. So it wasn't just, here's what I'm thinking it is. I really wanted to be broad. And actually, in creating the survey, I worked with 2 detransitioners. So we really worked to make sure that the questions really encompassed a wide variety of experiences. Mm-hmm. And so regarding the counseling is about a quarter felt that it was accurate, but maybe a little less than half felt that it was too positive about the benefits. So that's something that deserves investigation. We need to see whether or not people are getting accurate. I mean, could it be that these people had a negative experience with detransition, so they might remember it, differently? Sure, but we need to look into it. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is that some of these people said that they felt pressured by their doctors to transition. And so I'd like to, give you a couple of quotes, because, they said it in their own words that, where did I put that?
You look for it, and I just want to squeeze this one stat in from your study. 58% said they believe their gender dysphoria was caused by trauma. 58% believe it was caused by a trauma or a mental health condition previous, not by, I genuinely am gender dysphoric. And these people are getting surgeries now based on the medical community's desire to be woke, to be affirming without questioning, and so on. Go ahead with your stats or your quotes.
Okay. I'm going to give you the quotes, but I do want to say about woke. So I think the idea of woke is a good idea, like to be aware of injustice and to really look at the possibilities of people being treated unfairly. But I think that in practice, it's gotten very rigid and very narrow. And I think that's the problem. But here are the quotes from people who said that they felt pressured. Quote, "My gender therapist acted like transition was a panacea for everything. My doctor pushed drugs and surgery at every visit." So this was people who really did feel pressured by their doctors. Again, we don't know how many, but I mean, I think those are strong words.